Dr. Vexhai pressed a medical patch against the long cut on his arm and tried not to shake. His blue blood had stopped flowing, but the pain still burned like fire. Behind the thick metal door, something crashed against the walls again and again. Each bang made the other scientists step back further. "How many injuries now?" asked Commander Zeflon. The tall, gray-skinned Setian looked tired, very tired. 12 staff members in 3 days, Vexhai said. His voice was quiet. "The medical bay is running out of beds." The creature behind the door made a sound like breaking glass mixed with a scream. Everyone in the hallway jumped. Even the security guards in their heavy armor looked nervous. Kepler Station was supposed to be the best research facility in this part of the galaxy. Scientists from 20 different planets came here to study rare animals and plants. The station orbited a beautiful gas giant, and its labs had the most advanced equipment money could buy. Nothing was supposed to go wrong here, but 3 days ago, everything had gone very wrong. The cargo ship had arrived with its illegal prize. Space pirates had been caught trying to sell the creature on the black market. When the authorities found them, they decided to bring the animal to Kepler Station. It was a baby shadow maw from the death world of Tenebros VII. "It's just a baby," the cargo captain had said. How dangerous could it be? Very dangerous, as it turned out. Shadow maws were legendary creatures. Adults could grow as large as small spaceships. They had bone spears that shot from their arms, spit that could melt through metal, and strength that could crush most materials. But they were also very smart. The few scientists who had studied them said they could form strong bonds with their family groups. This baby was different. It was only the size of a large dog, covered in black fur that seemed to absorb light. Its eyes glowed yellow in the dark. When it was angry, bone spikes pushed out from its forearms like knives. When it spit, the walls started to smoke. But the worst part was that it never stopped being angry. Dr. Vexhai had worked with dangerous animals for 40 years. He had helped angry plasma bears and frightened crystal serpents. He had even calmed down a pack of steel wolves once. But this creature was different. It attacked everything that came near it. The first day, they had tried to feed it. The creature had destroyed the feeding machine and melted a hole in the floor with its spit. The second day, they had tried to examine it. Dr. Kesses Tor, the station's best animal doctor, still had bandages covering the claw marks on his face. By the third day, the creature had broken 3 different holding cells. "We need to make a decision," Commander Zeflon said. "This thing is too dangerous to keep, but it's a baby," said Dr. Linara, a kind scientist from the forest world of Verdania. "And shadow maws are almost extinct. There might only be a few hundred left in the wild. A few hundred very good reasons to stay away from them," muttered Security Chief Mortak. The big, rock-skinned warrior had tried to contain the creature using stun weapons. Nothing had worked. The creature seemed immune to most forms of energy. Dr. Vexhai looked through the small window in the door. The creature sat in the corner of its cell, breathing hard. Its yellow eyes stared at nothing. Sometimes it would suddenly attack the walls for no reason anyone could see. Other times, it would curl up in a ball and make sounds that might have been crying. "I don't understand," Vexhai said. "The research says shadow maws are social creatures. They live in family groups. They should be able to bond with other beings. Maybe the research is wrong," Commander Zeflon said. "Maybe they're just monsters. Or maybe this one is sick," Dr. Linara suggested. "Trauma can make any creature act strangely. Sick or not, it's dangerous," Security Chief Mortek said. "I have 17 people on this station who can't do their jobs because they're afraid to walk past this section. The creature has already damaged equipment worth more than most planets make in a year." Commander Zeflon nodded slowly. "If we can't find a solution by tomorrow, I'll have to authorize its destruction. I'm sorry, but I can't risk any more lives." Dr. Vexhai felt his heart sink. He had spent his whole career trying to understand creatures that others called monsters. But this time, he was failing. Every technique he knew, every method that had worked before, had failed with this creature. The baby shadow maw made another sound. This time, it wasn't angry or violent. It sounded sad. It sounded lonely. Maybe we should try bringing in the empathic Zillions, Dr. Linara said. They can sense emotions and project calm feelings. We tried that yesterday. Vex-High reminded her. The creature attacked the moment they tried to make mental contact. What about sonic therapy? Master Chendar has had success with sound waves. The creature's hearing seems too sensitive. Loud sounds make it more aggressive. Pheromone treatment? Makes it worse. Dr. Yithes said the creature started producing more acid after they tried scent therapy. Commander Zephlon looked at his datapad. I'm reading 17 different treatment attempts. All failures. Does anyone have any new ideas? The hallway was quiet, except for the occasional thump from the creature's cell. There is one more thing we could try, Security Chief Mortok said quietly. We could put it in deep sleep and transport it to a military research facility. They have stronger containment there. You mean use it as a weapon, Dr. Linara said. Her green skin turned darker with anger. That's not research. That's cruelty. It's practical, Mortok replied. If we can't help it, maybe someone else can find a use for it. Dr. Vex-High looked through the window again. The creature was scratching at the walls with its claws. Not attacking. Just scratching. Like it was trying to dig its way out, or maybe trying to dig its way home. One more day. He said finally. Give me one more day. If I can't make progress by then, do whatever you think is best. Commander Zephlon checked his schedule. Fine. One day. But if anyone else gets hurt, we end this immediately. The group started to leave. Dr. Vex-High stayed behind, watching the creature through the window. Somewhere in that small, angry body was a frightened baby that had been torn away from everything it knew. He just had to find a way to reach it. But time was running out. The next morning brought a parade of the galaxy's most respected animal experts to Kepler Station. Dr. Vex-High had called in every favor he was owed. If anyone could help the Shadowmaw cub, it would be these specialists. The first to arrive were the empathic Zillions. They floated into the station like living clouds, their translucent bodies shimmering with inner light. Dr. Zilandros, their leader, was considered the greatest animal psychologist in known space. His people could feel the emotions of any living creature and project feelings of calm and safety. This should be simple, Dr. Zilandros said, his voice like wind chimes. Young creatures respond well to empathic contact. We will ease its fear and anger. The Zillions gathered outside the creature's cell. They began to glow brighter as they reached out with their minds. Their bodies pulsed with soft, peaceful colors. The Shadowmaw cub sensed them immediately. It jumped up from where it had been lying and backed against the far wall. Its bone spears shot out from its arms. It opened its mouth and screamed. Interesting, Dr. Zilandros said. Its mind is primitive. Very strong, but primitive. It rejects our touch. The Zillions tried harder. Their glow became intense. They focused all their power on projecting feelings of safety and love toward the creature. The cub went crazy. It threw itself against the walls so hard that cracks appeared in the metal. It spit acid until the floor started to smoke. It made sounds like a machine breaking down. Stop, Dr. Vex-High shouted. You're making it worse. The Zillions pulled back, their light fading. Dr. Zilandros looked confused. I don't understand. Our methods work on every creature we've tried. Even the most aggressive predators respond to empathic soothing. Maybe this creature's brain is too different, suggested Dr. Linara. Shadowmaws evolved on a death world. Their minds might work in ways we don't understand. The Zillions left, apologizing and promising to study the problem further. The cub slowly calmed down. But it took hours. Next came Master Chendar the Harmonic. He was a crystal being from the singing mountains of Resonance Prime. His body looked like living music, with geometric patterns that shifted and changed as he moved. Crystal beings could create sounds that touch the very soul of most creatures. Sound is the universal language, Master Chendar announced. His voice was like a perfect musical note. All living things respond to harmony. I will sing this creature into peace. He positioned himself near the cell and began to create music. It started soft and low, like a mother's lullaby. The notes seemed to come from everywhere at once, filling the air with beautiful sound. At first, the cub seemed interested. It tilted its head and listened. Its bone spears retracted slightly. Master Chendar smiled and continued. He added more complex harmonies. The music became richer, more beautiful. Other staff members stopped their work to listen. Some began to cry from the pure beauty of it. But the Shadowmaw cub suddenly pressed its paws against its ears and began to howl. The howling was terrible, like the sound of pain itself. It threw itself against the door, again and again. The frequency is wrong, Master Chendar said, trying to adjust his song. I need to find the right resonance. He tried different notes, different rhythms. Everything he tried made the creature more upset. Finally, the cub began to bleed from its ears. Stop, Dr. Vexhai ordered. You're hurting it. Master Chendar stopped singing immediately. The sudden silence felt empty and cold. The cub collapsed in its cell, breathing hard and shaking. I'm sorry, Master Chendar said. His crystal body had turned dull with shame. Its hearing must be much more sensitive than I calculated. My music was like screaming to its ears. He left quickly, his footsteps ringing like broken bells. The third attempt came from the Synthesis Collective, a group of scientists who could create any chemical compound they needed. Their bodies were like living laboratories, able to produce pheromones and scents that could calm any creature. Dr. Yithes, their representative, was a blob-like being covered in thousands of tiny holes. Each hole could release different scents and chemicals. She had calmed everything from rage-infected battle rhinos to homesick void whales. Every creature responds to chemical signals, she explained. Fear, anger, loneliness. These are all just chemical reactions. I can create the exact compounds needed to make this creature feel safe and happy. She began to release carefully crafted scents into the air near the cell. The smell was pleasant, like flowers and fresh rain. It made the other scientists feel peaceful and content. The Shadowmaw cub sniffed the air suspiciously. For a moment, it seemed to relax. Its eyes closed halfway, and its breathing slowed. It's working, Dr. Vexhai whispered. But then the creature's body began to change. Its fur stood on end. Its bone spears shot out longer than anyone had seen before. It began to produce acid from its mouth. So much that the entire cell floor started to dissolve. What's happening? Dr. Linera asked. It's responding to the pheromones, Dr. Yithes said, but not the way it should. Instead of calming chemicals, its body is producing more stress hormones, more adrenaline, more fear chemicals. The creature was now producing so much acid that emergency systems activated. Fans began to blow the dangerous fumes away. The cub looked sick and confused, like it was fighting against its own body. Dr. Yithes immediately stopped releasing pheromones and began producing neutralizing compounds instead. It took an hour for the creature to return to normal. I don't understand, she said as she prepared to leave. The chemical combination should have worked. It works on every carbon-based life form we've tested. Maybe Shadowmaws are too different, Dr. Vexhai said sadly. The final expert was Dr. Kith Vera, a mammalian psychologist from Proxima Centauri. She specialized in maternal bonding and had successfully helped countless orphaned creatures. Her people looked similar to Earth cats but were much larger and more intelligent. This creature has been separated from its mother, she said, her voice gentle and warm. What it needs is a mother figure. I can provide that. She activated a sophisticated holographic projector. The machine scanned the Shadowmaw cub and created a perfect holographic image of what an adult female Shadowmaw might look like. The hologram was beautiful and terrifying at the same time, with the same black fur and glowing eyes, but larger and more graceful. The holographic mother moved slowly toward the cub. making soft sounds that the computer calculated would be comforting to a young shadow maw. The real cub looked up at the hologram. Its eyes went wide. For the first time in days, it made a sound that wasn't angry or frightened. It sounded hopeful. The cub moved toward the holographic mother. It reached out with one small paw, but when its paw passed through the empty air where the hologram seemed to be, everything went wrong. The cub realized the mother wasn't real. It began to attack the hologram, trying to bite and claw something that wasn't there. When its attacks passed through the image, the cub became more and more frustrated. It began to attack its own reflection in the metal walls, thinking it was fighting another shadow maw. It spit acid at every shiny surface, trying to destroy the images it saw there. Dr. Kith Vera quickly shut off the hologram, but the damage was done. The cub was now afraid of its own reflection and would attack any shiny object. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I made it worse. The illusion was too real." And when it broke, the creature felt abandoned all over again. By the end of the day, 4 of the galaxy's greatest animal experts had tried and failed. The Shadow Maw cub was more distressed than ever. It had stopped eating completely and spent most of its time curled in the darkest corner of its cell. Commander Zeflon stood in the hallway, looking at his damaged station and his exhausted staff. Security Chief Mortok waited nearby, ready to carry out whatever order was given. "Time's up," the commander said finally. "We've tried everything. Dr. Vexhai, I'm sorry, but we have to end this." Dr. Vexhai nodded sadly. He had one last request he needed to submit to maintenance. The creature's latest attacks had damaged the cell's environmental controls. Someone would need to fix them before the end. Maybe it was better this way, he thought. At least the creature's suffering would be over soon. Sarah Chen wiped the grease from her hands and checked her work order again. Environmental control failure in Section C7. She grabbed her toolbox and headed through the winding corridors of Kepler Station. Sarah was exactly what she appeared to be, a human maintenance technician. She was 32 years old, average height, with short black hair and practical clothes covered in the honest stains of real work. She had been on the station for 6 months, fixing things that broke and keeping the systems running. Most of the scientists barely noticed her. She had spent the last 4 days deep in the lower levels, fixing a major problem with the water recycling system. It was dirty, difficult work that required crawling through tight spaces and working with dangerous chemicals. While she was down there, she had missed all the excitement about some new creature they had brought to the station. Section C7 was crowded with people when she arrived. Scientists, security guards, and medical staff filled the hallway. Everyone looked tired and stressed. Some had bandages on their arms or faces. The smell of acid hung in the air. "Excuse me," Sarah said politely, carrying her heavy toolbox. "I need to get to the environmental controls." Dr. Vexhai looked at her with tired eyes. "You're the maintenance tech? About time. The system has been failing for hours. Sorry for the delay. I was fixing the water recyclers." "What happened here?" "Dangerous creature," Commander Zeflon said shortly. "Very dangerous. The sooner you can fix the environmental system, the sooner we can deal with the situation." Sarah noticed that everyone was standing well back from one particular door. Through a small window, she could see a damaged cell with scorch marks on the walls and holes melted in the floor. "What kind of creature is it?" she asked, setting down her toolbox. "Shadow Maw cub," Dr. Vexhai said. "From Tenebros the 7th. We've been trying to help it for 3 days, but nothing works. It's too aggressive, too dangerous." Sarah had heard of Shadow Maws. There were stories about them in the maintenance crew's break room. Legendary monsters from a death world. But she had also heard other stories. "Can I take a look?" she asked. Several aliens exchanged glances. Dr. Linara looked worried. "It's not safe. This creature has injured 12 people. I'll just look through the window. I need to see the environmental damage anyway, to know what parts to order." Sarah walked to the observation window and peered inside. The cell was a mess. Acid had eaten through the floor in several places. The walls were cracked and scarred. In the far corner, barely visible in the shadows, was a small black shape. The creature was much smaller than she had expected. It was about the size of her friend Mike's German Shepherd back on Earth. It was curled up in a tight ball, and its breathing looked quick and shallow. As Sarah watched, the creature lifted its head. She could see its glowing yellow eyes and the bone spears that came out of its forearms. It looked at her for a moment, then quickly looked away. It made a small sound, high-pitched and quiet. "Huh," Sarah said. "What?" Dr. Vex High asked. "It's scared," Sarah said simply. Several aliens made sounds that might have been laughter. Security Chief Mortak shook his rocky head. "Scared? That thing has been attacking everything that moves for 3 days. Look at its body language," Sarah said, still watching through the window. "The way it's curled up. The way it won't make eye contact. My friend back home has a rescue dog that acts just like this when it's frightened." "This is not a Earth dog," Commander Zeflon said. "This is a apex predator from a death world." "Maybe, but it's also a baby," Sarah said. "And babies act like babies, no matter what species they are." She continued to watch the creature. Its pupils were very wide, which usually meant fear or stress in mammals. Its breathing was fast, like a panic response. When it moved, it kept its belly close to the ground and checked all around for threats. "Has anyone tried just sitting with it?" Sarah asked. "Sitting with it?" Dr. Vex High repeated. "You know, not trying to do anything to it, just being nearby, letting it get used to someone." "We tried many approaches," Dr. Kithvera said. "Empathic contact, sonic therapy, chemical treatment, maternal substitution. No, I mean just sitting. Not trying to fix anything or change anything. Just being there." The scientists looked at each other. It was clear they thought Sarah was being simple-minded. "This creature is too dangerous for that approach," Commander Zeflon said. "We need advanced techniques." Sarah nodded and started working on the environmental controls. As she checked the damaged systems, she asked basic questions that seemed obvious to her. When was the last time it ate? "It won't eat," Dr. Vex High said. "We've tried feeding it, but it destroys the food dispensers." "What kind of food are you giving it?" "Standard high-protein nutrient paste, the best we have." "Is that what it would eat in the wild?" Dr. Vex High paused. "Well, no. In the wild it would eat fresh meat from the creatures its pack hunted. But nutrient paste has all the same vitamins and proteins." And it was taken from its pack?" "Yes. Poachers had captured it illegally." "How old is it?" "We estimate 6 to 8 months. Very young." "So it was taken away from its mother and family when it was still a baby, brought to a strange place full of strange smells and sounds, given food that doesn't smell or taste like anything it knows, and then a bunch of strangers started trying to do medical procedures on it?" The hallway became quiet. Sarah continued working on the environmental system, checking wires and replacing damaged circuits. "Well," Dr. Linara said slowly, "when you put it like that. I had a cat once," Sarah said, not looking up from her work. "Rescued it from a bad situation. For the first few weeks, it would attack anyone who came near. Scratched me up pretty good, but it wasn't mean. It was just terrified." "This is different," Security Chief Mortak insisted. "This creature has acid spit and bone weapons." "Sure, but fear is fear," Sarah said. "Doesn't matter if you're human or alien or whatever. When you're scared and alone, you fight anything that might hurt you." She finished replacing a burnt circuit board and moved on to the air filtration system. "Has anyone just tried giving it normal food? Like actual meat instead of paste?" "We can't get close enough," Dr. Vex High said. "It attacks anything that enters the cell." "What about sliding it through the meal slot?" "It destroys anything we put through there." Sarah thought about this while she worked. "What if you didn't put it in a machine? What if you just put some regular food near the door and walked away? Let it investigate when it feels safe?" "That's actually not a bad idea," Dr. Linera admitted. "The creature is scheduled for termination," Commander Zeflon said firmly. "We can't waste more time on failed experiments." Sarah looked up from her work. "Termination? You're going to kill it?" "It's too dangerous to keep and too aggressive to rehabilitate." Sarah looked through the window again. The creature had moved slightly and was watching her work. When their eyes met, it quickly looked away again. "Mind if I try something first?" Sarah asked. "Just one quick thing. If it doesn't work, you can do whatever you planned." "Absolutely not," Security Chief Mortak said. "This human has no experience with dangerous creatures. I won't go in the cell or anything. I'll just sit outside for a little while. See if it reacts differently." Commander Zeflon checked his schedule. "We have some time before the termination order goes into effect. But if there's any sign of danger, you step back immediately." "Of course," Sarah said. She packed up her tools and submitted her maintenance report. The environmental systems were working again, but she had an idea for helping with the other problem too. She just needed to get something from her lunchbox. Sarah returned 20 minutes later with her lunch bag and a small cushion from her quarters. The hallway was still full of scientists and security guards, all watching her with mixtures of curiosity and concern. "This is highly irregular," Commander Zeflon muttered. But he didn't stop her. Sarah spread the cushion on the floor about 3 feet away from the creature's cell door. She sat down cross-legged and opened her lunch bag. The smell of ordinary human food filled the air. A sandwich, some fruit, and a small bag of something that looked like brown pellets. "What are those?" Dr. Linara asked, pointing at the pellets. "Dog treats," Sarah said simply. "My friend Mike asked me to bring some for his dog back on Earth. These are just basic ones. Compressed meat and grain with some vegetables mixed in." Several aliens made sounds of disbelief. "You're going to try to feed a deadly predator dog treats?" Security Chief Mortak asked. "Maybe. First, I'm just going to sit here and eat my lunch." Sarah unwrapped her sandwich and began to eat, completely ignoring the creature in the cell. She didn't look at it, didn't try to interact with it, didn't make any sudden movements. She just sat and ate like she was having lunch in a park. The shadow maw cub noticed her immediately. It lifted its head and sniffed the air. Its nostrils flared as it caught the scent of real food. Not the sterile nutrient paste it had been offered, but actual meat and bread and natural ingredients. "Look at its behavior," Dr. Vexhai whispered. "It's interested." The creature stood up slowly and moved closer to the energy barrier that kept it in the cell. It was still cautious, but the bone spears weren't showing. It sniffed again and made a small sound. Sarah continued eating her sandwich, but she casually tossed one of the dog treats onto the floor near the energy barrier. Not at the creature. Not trying to get its attention. Just dropping it like it was an accident. The cub stared at the treat. It smelled like meat and familiar things, like food that belonged to a family group. Slowly, very slowly, it reached one paw through the energy barrier and pulled the treat closer. "Amazing," Dr. Zilandros said quietly. "It's not attacking." The creature sniffed the treat carefully, then ate it quickly. Its eyes closed briefly. The first sign of anything like pleasure anyone had seen from it. Sarah still didn't look at the creature directly. She finished half her sandwich, then casually tossed another treat. This time, she placed it a little closer to where she was sitting. The cub came to the barrier immediately and reached for the treat. When it ate this one, it made a small rumbling sound deep in its chest. "Is it purring?" Dr. Linara asked in amazement. "Sounds like it," Sarah said. She was still acting like the creature wasn't there, but she was paying attention to everything it did. "Mike's dog makes a similar sound when he's happy." She tossed a third treat, and this time the creature caught it before it hit the ground. Its movements were quick but not aggressive. It was acting like an animal that expected food, not one that expected attacks. "How is this possible?" Dr. Vexhai asked. "We've tried everything." "You tried complicated things," Sarah said, taking another bite of her sandwich. "Sometimes the simple things work better." She reached into her bag and pulled out another treat. This time, instead of tossing it, she held it near the energy barrier. The creature looked at her face for the first time, then at the treat. "Don't make eye contact," Sarah said quietly to herself. "Don't reach too fast." The cub extended its paw through the barrier and very gently took the treat from her fingers. Its claws were retracted, and it was careful not to scratch her. A collective gasp went up from the watching scientists. "Impossible," Security Chief Mortak said. That creature has been trying to kill everyone for 3 days. It's been scared for 3 days, Sarah corrected. There's a difference. She offered another treat, and this time, the creature took it more confidently. When it finished eating, it didn't pull its paw back. Instead, it held very still, waiting to see what would happen. Sarah very slowly reached out with one finger and gently touched the back of the creature's paw. Its fur was softer than it looked, and surprisingly warm. The creature tensed for a moment, then relaxed. First, non-violent contact, Dr. Vexhai said, recording everything. This is unprecedented. Sarah scratched gently behind the creature's ears, the way she would pet any small animal. The purring sound got louder. The creature leaned into the touch. You're just scared, aren't you? Sarah said softly. Everything's been strange and frightening, and no one's given you anything that felt safe. She gave the creature another treat, and it ate more slowly this time, savoring the taste. Its glowing eyes looked calmer. The bone spears had completely retracted. The stress indicators are dropping, Dr. Linara reported, checking her medical scanners. Heart rate is slowing. Hormone levels are normalizing. Sarah continued to offer treats and gentle pets. The creature began to make soft sounds that were definitely not aggressive. It sounded like a baby talking to its mother. After about an hour, Sarah ran out of treats. The creature looked disappointed but not angry. It touched her hand gently with its nose, the way a dog might ask for more attention. I'll bring more tomorrow, Sarah promised. She slowly stood up and gathered her things. The creature watched her but didn't become agitated. When she moved away from the cell, it went back to its corner, but this time it lay down in a relaxed position instead of curling up defensively. The hallway was completely silent. Every scientist, security officer, and medical technician was staring at Sarah in amazement. How? Dr. Vexhai finally asked. How did you do in 1 hour what we couldn't do in 3 days? I treated it like what it is, Sarah said, packing up her lunch bag. A scared, hungry baby that's been taken away from everything familiar. But the aggression, Dr. Zilandros said, fear response. When you're terrified and people keep trying to do things to you, you fight back. Especially if you're built for fighting. The resistance to our techniques, maybe your techniques felt threatening to it. Mind reading, loud sounds, strange chemicals, fake mothers that weren't real. From its perspective, a bunch of aliens were trying to attack its brain. Commander Zeflon looked thoughtful. And the simple approach worked because I wasn't trying to change it or fix it or analyze it, Sarah said. I was just sharing food and being calm. That's what families do. That's how you show someone you're safe to be around. Security Chief Mortak shook his head. This is just one success. The creature might become aggressive again. Maybe, Sarah agreed. But maybe not. Maybe it just needed someone to treat it with basic kindness. She headed toward the exit, then paused. Oh, and you might want to get it some real meat instead of that paste. And maybe something soft to sleep on. Concrete floors are pretty uncomfortable. As she walked away, the scientists continued to stare through the observation window. The Shadowmaw cub was lying peacefully in its cell, occasionally making soft purring sounds. For the first time since it had arrived, it looked like what it actually was. A very young animal that was far from home. Dr. Vexhai looked at his colleagues. Well, he said finally, I think we need to reconsider our approach to everything. Behind him, the creature made a small, contented sound and settled down for its first peaceful sleep in days. 3 months later, Dr. Vexhai stood in the same hallway, but everything was different. The damaged cell had been repaired and converted into a proper habitat. Through the transparent walls, he could see the Shadowmaw cub playing with a collection of toys and sleeping peacefully on a soft bed. The creature had tripled in size, and its black fur now had a healthy shine. Most importantly, it was happy. It greeted visitors with curious sniffs, instead of acid spit. It had learned to gently take treats from anyone who offered them. Sometimes it even played simple games with the staff. Final health check looks perfect, Dr. Linara announced, reviewing her scanner readings. Strong, healthy, and showing normal social behaviors for its species. Transport ship is ready for departure, Commander Zeflon added. The protected reserve on Tenebros Theventh has confirmed they're prepared to receive it. Today was the day they would return the cub to its home world. A team of Shadowmaw conservation experts had prepared a safe area where the young creature could learn to rejoin its own species. Other rescued Shadowmaw cubs were already there, forming a new family group. It's amazing, Dr. Vexhai said. 3 months ago, we thought this creature was untamable. Now look at it. Sarah Chen arrived carrying her toolkit and a bag of treats. The cub saw her coming and pressed against the wall excitedly. It had learned to associate her smell with good things. She opened the viewing port and offered it a treat, which it accepted gently before nuzzling her hand. Going to miss him, Sarah said simply. Actually, Dr. Vexhai said, we were hoping you might consider a different position on the station. Sarah looked up from petting the cub. Different how? We'd like you to head a new department. Xenobiological relations. Your approach has revolutionized how we think about animal behavior. We'd like about partifully in deciding. We'd like you to head a new department. It was true. Word of Sarah's success had spread throughout the scientific community. Research stations across the galaxy had started implementing what they called Terran protocols. Simple, patient approaches that focused on basic needs before complex solutions. Dr. Zelandros had published a paper titled The Failure of Complexity: Why Simple Approaches Succeed. The Synthesis Collective had developed new policies requiring basic environmental and nutritional assessments before chemical intervention. Master Chen Dar had begun studying the calming effects of silence and gentle presence instead of elaborate sonic treatments. I appreciate the offer, Sarah said, but I like fixing things that are actually broken, not trying to fix things that just need understanding. She was right. And everyone knew it. The creature hadn't needed fixing. It had needed patience, appropriate food, and someone who treated it with basic kindness. Besides, Sarah added, you've got this figured out now. You don't need me for that. Dr. Kithvera approached with a transport carrier designed specifically for young Shadowmaws. It was comfortable and secure, with plenty of ventilation and soft surfaces, nothing like the harsh containment units they had used before. Ready for the journey home? She asked the cub gently. Loading the creature into the transport was remarkably easy. Sarah offered it treats throughout the process, and the cub cooperated completely. It seemed to understand that something important was happening. Transport ship Safe Harbor is ready for departure, came the announcement over the station's communication system. The group moved to the docking bay where a specialized vessel waited. This ship was designed for animal transport, with proper life support systems and monitoring equipment. The crew had all been trained in the new Terran protocols. As they loaded the transport carrier onto the ship, the cub made soft sounds that might have been saying goodbye. Sarah reached through the carrier's viewing window and scratched behind its ears one last time. Be good, she told it, and try to remember that most people are trying to help, even when they seem scary. Dr. Vexhai handed her a datapad. The final report on our new protocols. We're calling it the Chen Method in your honor. Sarah scrolled through the document. It was surprisingly simple. 1. Address basic biological needs. First, food, shelter, safety. 2. Observe natural behaviors before attempting intervention. 3. Use species-appropriate comfort items when possible. 4. Allow creatures time to acclimate without forced interaction. 5. Remember that fear and aggression are often responses to stress. 6. Sometimes the simplest solution is the correct solution. This is just common sense, Sarah said. Common sense isn't always common, Dr. Linera replied. Especially in advanced scientific communities. We sometimes forget the basics while reaching for complex solutions. The ship's engines began their startup sequence. Through the viewing windows, they could see the cub settling down in its carrier, comfortable and calm. 6 months ago, that creature was scheduled for termination, Commander Zeflon said. Today, it's going home to help rebuild its species. All because someone cared enough to share their lunch. And now? Dr. Vexhai asked Sarah. Now I go back to fixing the atmospheric processors on Deck 7, Sarah said. Someone reported a strange noise in the filtration system. She gathered her tools and headed for the exit, pausing only to wave goodbye as the transport ship departed. Through the station's main viewport, they watched the vessel disappear into hyperspace, carrying its precious cargo toward home. A week later, they received confirmation that the reintroduction had been successful. The young Shadowmaw had joined the other rescued cubs and was learning normal social behaviors. The conservation team reported that all the creatures were thriving in their new environment. The success story spread beyond xenobiology. Medical facilities began applying Terran protocols to traumatized patients. Diplomatic corps used them when dealing with hostile alien cultures. Even military units found that sometimes the simple approach worked better than advanced tactics. 6 months after that, Dr. Vexhai was reviewing applications for a new research project when Sarah appeared in his office doorway. "Got a minute?" she asked. "Of course. What can I do for you?" "There's a situation on level 12, Sarah said. "Some kind of plant creature they brought in from the Thorian sector. Nobody can get near it. It keeps shooting poisonous thorns at anyone who approaches." "And?" Dr. Vexhai asked, though he suspected he knew where this was going. "Well, I was fixing the hydroponic systems down there. And I noticed something. The creature keeps trying to reach toward the grow lights, but its container is positioned wrong. The lights are too far away. You think it just wants more light? I think it's a plant that's been stuck in a dark box for weeks. Probably hungry, and definitely not getting the kind of light it needs." Dr. Vexhai smiled. "Want to test that theory?" "Already did," Sarah said. Moved one of the portable grow lights closer to its container. It stopped shooting thorns immediately, started making sounds that almost seemed like singing. "And the research team? They're down there now, taking notes and wondering why none of them thought to check the lighting conditions first." She started to leave, then paused. "Oh, and Doc? They're calling you down to the conference room. Something about expanding the Terran Protocols program galaxy-wide." After she left, Dr. Vexhai sat quietly in his office, thinking about how much things had changed. The greatest scientific breakthrough in decades had come not from advanced technology or complex theories, but from a maintenance worker who remembered that scared creatures, no matter how alien, still needed food, comfort, and kindness. His communication system beeped. Another message from another research station, asking for guidance on implementing the new protocols. Another alien species that had been considered impossible to work with, now being successfully helped by researchers who had learned to start with simple questions. Is it hungry? Is it afraid? Is it far from home? What does it need to feel safe? Sometimes, Dr. Vexhai reflected, the most profound discoveries came from remembering the most basic truths. In her quarters that evening, Sarah Chen sat down with a cup of coffee and her maintenance schedule. Tomorrow she would be fixing a malfunctioning waste recycler on Deck 3. After that, someone had reported problems with the artificial gravity in Section B. It was honest work, useful work. She was good at it, and it needed doing. But tucked in her toolkit, just in case, was a small bag of dog treats, because you never knew when someone might need a little kindness.